I'm a Karen. Karen.
Hey there, it's your TTS Radio. We present some of the most entertaining stories from Reddit and elsewhere to you. Make sure to subscribe and enjoy the show.
Karen.
Divorced Karen. Haven't had a need to see a manager since. My mom is a literal Karen, as in, it's her name. But she's like a bizarro Karen. She will constantly ask to speak with managers and supervisors and bosses. But when said managers arrive, she unloads about the employee helping her out was fantastic, hardworking and friendly. And then she'll spend 20 minutes trying to figure out if she and the manager know someone in common. 9 times out of 10 they do. As a kid it would embarrass me, as an adult it's one of my favorite things about her. She makes people feel good about the work they do, and it's really special to watch how wonderful she makes people feel. Plus she's got long gorgeous silver hair. Not married to a Karen, but married someone with a Karen for a sister. Sil is the freaking worst. I hate more than anything going out to dinner with her, listening to her order food and talk to the servers. Holidays are also terrible. She sends out long lists of expected gifts list. She celebrates every holiday and birthday specifically for presents even when it's not appropriate. Funny thing is one time I was away from the dinner table when the bill came and Sil waited for me to return to pay the bill by actually handing it to me. She didn't give it to her sibling/myso or pay her half, but expressly handed it to me to pay. BTW, her husband is an idiot and they are a match made in heaven. Edit, I'm sorry to disappoint everyone, but yes I did pay. There are many reasons as to why, but the biggest one is that it got me out of the restaurant faster. Also, it helps me control the tip. Another time we went to a family brunch where the bill was split. Karen Sil waited to see what other people tipped so she could lower the overall tip percentage for the waitress to what Sil thought was deserving. We didn't know this until afterwards when she bragged about it later so no one even knew to stop her. And she is invited to these family meals because she has 2 children we want a relationship with, so she has that emotional blackmail card. My sister and Sil are both Karens. I will show up to restaurants 15 minutes early to warn them. I tell them if it's not done to their liking they will hear about it and they will make your shift hell. I'm just there as a warning. I used to work in restaurants and those people made life hell. I do what I can to help. Generally my drinks are better and we get a free appetizer as soon as those 2 tornadoes walk and all hell breaks loose. Not enough ice, table is too cold, it's too loud, etc. I also tip really big BC I don't want to associate it with the 2 tornadoes. I love overseas so I only see them 2 weeks out of the year. So it's manageable. Edit, I live overseas but also love it. I only put up with their attitude because they could take my nieces and nephews away from me. I pick my battles. I need my Ann and Ann to know I'm always here for them and they can talk to me about anything. I can't risk our relationship being tampered with, especially since I only see them 2 weeks a year. I have stood up to both of them plenty of times but I'm not about to have an argument every time I see them. After living overseas I have realized how valuable family is and I need to accept someone, family or not, for who they are and nothing more. This has more to do with being at peace with myself. Only I can change my actions and reactions. I cannot change them but what I can do is tip a few shots before they arrive and tip big. I've been blessed, not religious, in having a great husband and stable with money. During the quarantine I've started reaching out to my old friends who are not as fortunate and buying their kids iPads so they can do schoolwork, science-based activities and books. I think it's time to help those that are not as fortunate but work their asses off. And no, I absolutely do not post about it. They may send a thank you on social media, but it's not initiated by me. Last year I was having dinner with a friend and her husband. He's a real fucking charmer that guy. Usually spends his days with us making snarky comments to his wife and everyone else with an opinion. So we went to this tiny local restaurant, like 50 people crammed in a living room, one of the best restaurants in town. They serve local food and people from all over the world stand in line to get a seat. It's cheap, but the best. So this guy complains about it being small and hot, he complains about the tables, gossiping about the other people around him, they could perfectly well hear him. I'm usually the kind of guy who keeps his mouth shut because I know speaking up won't change a thing. I had a Karen for a mother, a single mom, I know when I should shut up. But I'm getting all worked up and he starts insulting his wife, people look at him from all over the restaurant. Like really mean comments telling us weird things about our personality, their sex life. It was my breaking point. I told him to quit it and be nice, he goes all attack mode on me. So I raise my voice and tell him that if he can't be nice, I'm leaving. Look around me to the people with a kinda sorry to disturb you look and took my leave. Told the staff the food was great and that 1 plus 100% would come back. but bring better company. They looked happy about that. Went to smoke outside, my partner and friend came out and I told them he's a prick and I'm not dealing with him anymore. I went home. He was not amused, neither was anyone else, but I went home, had a beer and played some video games while they had to bite their tongue. Fuck that guy. Happy to never see him again. It's worth noting that calling Karens out can sometimes make it worse. It might be productive to talk to them about it when the issue isn't at hand. They're less likely to be defensive. That said, I would also endorse refusing to spend time in public with people like this and being bluntly honest with them that it's because you're embarrassed by the way they treat people. My sister is a Karen. Everyone feels so sorry for her husband. Everything is his fault. He is treated like a slave. She only addresses him by yelling. She constantly insults him. We have no idea why he hasn't divorced her or flipped out and attacked her. We have all told her to cool it and her response is that he's just so stupid. I could go on and on, but my sister really is a horrible person. My sister too. I had to ask her to leave my apartment once because she was yelling so loudly and I didn't want my neighbors to complain. She said it was the only way anyone would listen to her. Ugh. But her husband is a cheating alcoholic, so I don't feel bad for him. They really just make each other's lives miserable. But they love talking about their sex life, so apparently that's solid. Not married to one. But mom was a major Karen back when I was growing up. Mom, can we just go? Was my favorite question. Then the apologetic nod as we leave the store. I know a couple with a Karen. She blamed him for everything. The husband was, in our opinion, something of a saint. Once she broke a glass in the kitchen, came and sat back down at the table, and said that was your fault. We all just stared at her. She looked sheepish and said I knew that one probably wouldn't work. They're divorced now. I guess even saintliness has its limits. My husband's ex is Karen. She's a classic narcissist. When one of our feral hens started acting aggressive towards other hens, my stepson named her Karen. Edit. Wow, the most upvotes I've ever had. No awards, though. Ha. Also, we live on Kauai, so we differentiate between feral chickens and the ones cage raised for food and or eggs. We have 5 or so roosters, 8 or so hens, 3 of which have 4, 6, and 8 chicks. We feed the adults oats and scraps and the chicks get chick starter until they can eat other stuff. We really love them. Except the roosters. They're righteous bastards. Not the married to one, but my mom's a Karen. Literally overreacts to everything. Whenever something doesn't go her way, you guessed, gotta speak to the manager or whoever is in charge. Sometimes really embarrassing to go out in public with her because she'll just yell at the service workers for the smallest of things. Also, she has a bob cut. My mom was a Karen for a while. She literally didn't realize it until my brother and I started calling her out on it when we were early teens because we're embarrassed. She made genuine efforts to change, and a few years later was the sweetest woman you ever meet. Just saying, there's hope. Karens are typically defenseless when someone who they thought was their ally turns on them and calls them out for their shit. Watch them go red with rage as they look for a manager to speak to, only to realize that you were there with them, and there is no manager. If you see a Karen and they are being mean to the workers, mention it to them. Shame them into decency. The workers have no way to defend themselves. My mom was a Karen. When I was 16, one actually talked to her after an angry phone call she had with a customer service rep on the phone. I think she could see that I, as her only son, didn't look up to yelling at helpless employees. She tried to justify it, but I never saw her Karen at anyone after that. Not married to one, but my aunt is. My uncle is this soft-spoken giant. He never stands up to her in any way. Except once. At their daughter's wedding, she was about to interrupt the ceremony to close a window because she was chilly. Everyone sitting close could hear her whisper, "I'm going to do it, but I don't want to be an asshole." My uncle, in a calm, quiet tone, says quickly, "Why stop now?" Almost as if his filter just missed this one. I swear I could hear my dad snort 2 rows back, trying to hold in laughter. Karen was not happy. My mom's a Karen. She is self-aware she is a Karen. My siblings and I sent her memes about it. When my stepdad divorced her last summer, we were all amazed he lasted 17 years, to be honest. None of us like going out with her, it's terrible, and my husband just straight up tells her, "No, you aren't talking to the manager when we go in a place." I'll tell you guys a story my step told us. They are farmers and own a small beef and bee farm. They have a store they go to for bee supplies. The owner called my stepdad and asked him to please be the one to pick up their stuff because his staff was tired of dealing with my mom. He is the only one who went to the store for the next 5 years. My mom is a Karen. She thinks the world is supposed to cater to her, serve her, and everyone else is wrong. Once we went to Carl's Jr. She ordered 4 burgers, for the 4 of us. She pulls one out of the bag while the guy is getting our drinks and hides it. She complains that he forgot a burger. She pulls them out one by one and counts it in front of him. It's obviously missing because she hid it and he's swearing up and down he put them all in the bag. I'm stunned speechless and it happened so fast. She got a free burger, and laughed as we drive off. I'm just staring at her and she opens it up to eat it on the drive home. And she ate her actual burger like the 5th one never existed. I can't even explain how she is when she's in the hospital. She treats it like a luxury stay in a hotel. I knew from the beginning that there would be difficulties, but I loved her and made the leap to make her my forever partner. Yes, her attitude towards certain people and things confused me at times, but by keeping an open mind and accepting her for who she was, everything has worked out well. We've been married for 10 years, we have a darling daughter, and I've even come to love my wife's kimchi fried rice. I taught my nephews, ages 9 and 11, about Karens last year when they stayed with us for a week after school let out. After describing traits and observing them in the wild, they asked somewhere around day 2, "Is our mom a Karen?" My reply, "Your words, not mine. My mom can be difficult sometimes. But isn't a Karen." When my sister and I were in our mid-20s, my mom had to start caring for our grandma. After a particularly stressful Saturday afternoon at my grandma's home, we were all carpooling back to my mom's house and she said to my sister and I, "If I ever start acting like grandma, you better tell me." My sister and I sat there in complete silence. After a couple beats she yelled, "I do not act like my mother." It made my sister and I laugh until we cried. Mostly because, yes, she does act like her mother, married to one. She doesn't get why people think Karens complain so much. It's annoying for her and she'd like to talk to someone about this. Not married. 4 years of a toxic relationship though. I broke up with her on Monday, again. We're kinda fucked financially because of this lockdown, so we are just feeling things out for a month before we decide for sure. This cycle is on repeat. I constantly have to cut her off and speak over her because of the way she treats people. Waiters, sales assistants, gym staff, neighbors, landlords, randoms we meet in bars, etc. Note, we were both waiters at the beginning of our relationship, so she has worked in the industry, but still lacks empathy. She blames the waiter if something is out of stock, etc. My second major issue. We are both English second language teachers. She teaches kindergarten, while I teach high school. Now that we are working from home, I hear how she speaks to her students, and it's really opened up another aspect of her personality that I don't like. She will berate a student for not understanding instead of evaluating her ability to explain. Shitting on 3-year-olds in their second language doesn't fly with me. A lot of her behavior stems from a self-defense mechanism due to insecurity, but that's not an excuse. She doesn't realize how mean she is to people, including myself. I'm a people pleaser that would rather sacrifice my own comfort than someone else's. She expects me to be an asshole to people because I'm a biggish guy with tattoos. I don't exactly look soft. It's toxic as hell, please help. P.S. The sex is so good it rivals most porn, easily. I dated a Karen for a while. Yes, the booty is the reason I stayed as long as I did. Let me guess, when she realizes she's not just being a basic bitch sandwich and she's raised your dander from annoyance to bitch, what is wrong with you? That's when the flirty side comes out. Like she realizes that she's crossed a line, and so now it's time to fog your mind with amazing sex the instant she can. That's an easy formula for things to turn toxic. She's associated sex with calming you down after she's pissed you off. So if she's horny, clearly she has to piss you off first, so there's something she can do to make it up to you. Meanwhile, every time she pisses you off, in the back of your head there's a part of you that likes it because hey, for however long you're pissed off right now, this is going to end in awesome sex. How can you hold a grudge? Escape, motherfucker. How many Admiral Akbar gifts do you need to cut things off for good? Not married, but dated a male Karen for 8 years. He was a semi-successful business owner who was twice my age, and I was young and dumb for a lack of a better word. The gist of our relationship was him trying to take over every part of my life. For instance, he would order for me at restaurants and would dissuade me if I wanted to try something new. If I had a problem with something, it would be brushed off, but if he had a problem, then he had to talk to a manager. Not knowing any better, I just thought he was very particular and even started copying some of his tendencies, like speaking up when I felt I wasn't getting the right service when I was out on my own. I realized who he was when we were flying back from Vegas and our luggage was heavier than when we flew in. Obviously we'd bought extra things which made up for the weight difference, so as he demanded to know an explanation from the check-in clerk as to why, if it was the same luggage, would it somehow weigh more, I innocently answered that it must have been the extra shoes and clothes. He was quiet and paid up. Later he told me not to do that again as he knew the reason why the luggage was heavier. He was just trying to get away with not paying. At that moment a bulb went off in my head. This man who'd spent $1,500 on a stripper for his friend was making an already stressful job more stressful for the clerk in order to avoid paying $60. We broke up soon after and I checked myself on the Karen tendencies he'd rubbed off on me. Not married to one, but my mom is absolutely one. I spend most of my time with her in public apologizing to people after she's walked away. The one and only time it comes in handy is when I bought cars and had her come in during the price negotiation phase. She's knocked off thousands purely due to how unpleasant she is and how much people want her to just get the hell out of the door. My ex-wife is a Karen, in every sense but name. It was always so embarrassing. She was incapable of treating anyone like a human for the most trivial of occurrences. It was hell for me, as a person that's pretty forgiving and don't seek out confrontation. So in a one-word description, it was hell. Lol. PS she's very codependent and jumps from relationship to relationship these days. Not surprised. My life has been a living hell. The number of times I have had to intervene to save the life of a customer service rep over nickels is insane. I've asked for divorce now just a couple weeks ago. Guess how that went over? My mom is a Karen. Not fun. I think she was part of the reason the girl I loved left, because whenever she was around my mom behaved much better and put on a nice face. We argued frequently about my relationship with my mom. Hurts a lot. Don't think I can fully let this one go. Engaged to one, she was raised as a princess by her military-raised father. However, she's super down to earth, but God forbid you work in the service industry and mess something up. She worked at IHOP during college, so it humbled her compared to her family. She just writes reviews now, good or bad, and emails corporate to complain. If something is wrong with my food, she refuses me to sit there and eat it. Which I hate, but I have gotten her better about it, I believe. So maybe she is just a recovering Karen at this point. Divorced and abusive Karen who was convicted of domestic violence. That's a misdemeanor, folks, so she got half of everything. Totally worth it. My life before was a nightmare. Escape was priceless. My mother is a Karen. If something minor inconveniences her, she blows it up into a huge done, constantly complains, belittles me and has a slight superiority complex. I'm not married to a Karen, but someone in my family decided to make a Karen family, and let me just say, it is freaking hell. I do not go to any social event if said Karen will be there, keeps the peace in my family TBH, nor do I go alone with Karen. She is a nightmare to everyone in her path, from car guards to cashiers, even her friends. No one can be better than her or smarter than her, and she's just freaking exhausting, man. The worst part is, her kids are becoming just like her. People who are married to Karens are the guy equivalent of Karens, or they are aloof goofs unaware that their Karen is a Karen. You won't get a real answer. Was married to a male Karen. Everything, and I mean everything, could set him off. We were at a local tap room and his iPhone automatically connected to the Wi-Fi. Keep in mind, he had full bars on our cell service. The Wi-Fi was being wonky and wasn't working. The manager, super nice guy, comes over and asks how we are doing, while he washes some glasses in the dish pit on the other side of the bar. The following conversation ensues. Keep in mind, my husband is super irritated at this made-up problem because our cell service is working just fine and he can literally just turn off the Wi-Fi. Husband, your Wi-Fi is fucking trash. Manager, I'm sorry. We recently upgraded our internet, and Cox is sending us a new modem. It's supposed to be here this week. Husband, if you say you have Wi-Fi, you should make sure it actually works. Manager, I know. I'm sorry. I'd be happy to restart the modem to see if that helps. Husband then ignores him and continues to talk under his breath about a made-up issue. This was my life for almost 5 years. The sense of entitlement was frustrating enough in public, but more so at home. I had apologized to more servers, retail workers, neighbors, and random people in public for him in 5 years than the rest of my life outside of him. You know what, now that I'm talking about it, maybe he's not so much a male Karen. He's more like a piece of shit. My mom is a bit of a Karen, and we're pretty much no contact now, so that should tell you everything you need to know. Whenever we'd go out to eat, it's always too cold. They don't have the brand of sparkling water she likes. They've put ice in her drink when she didn't want it. She always has to make some kind of modification to her order, etc. The list goes on. It got to the point where if we were out shopping and she said she needed to return something, I'd just go somewhere else because I couldn't stand watching her be rude and argue with the staff. My parents are divorced and I live with my dad now instead. Part of the reason I barely see my mom is because I have to meet her in public, go for a coffee or something, and I just can't deal with the way she behaves in these places, so I don't go. Not married to a Karen. But my mom is a Karen whose name is actually Karen. Simply put, I haven't seen her in over a year because I couldn't take it anymore. Living with her was just an exhausting nightmare. Karen's world revolves around Karen. Nobody else's issues matter. If you tell her that you had a bad day, she'll give you 20 reasons why her day was worse. You worked 60 hours this week? Well, when she was your age, she would work 80. You're in the hospital after having major surgery? She has a pinched nerve in her arm, which is somehow worse. Your boyfriend cheated on you? She couldn't even begin to tell you about all the heartbreak she's experienced in her life. She complains left and right about anything and everything. If you're taking a week break after just getting back from college, she'll ask why you haven't gotten a job yet and claim you're lazy. If you're out to eat at a restaurant, the food is always too cold or too burned or too salty. You can only ever go to the places she wants to go to, because everything else is crap. My entire graduation dinner she complained about how cold the food was. She thrives in getting attention and constantly seeks it, but she has very few actual friends. Facebook is her lifeblood and she's always looking to start something on there. She's the queen of sharing uninformed, misguided, conservative propaganda, which always starts fights in her comments. Also, if a tragedy happens in the family, like the passing of my teenage cousin, she'll make a big scene on Facebook and expect condolences from anyone and everyone, and makes note of the people who don't give her what she wants. Don't even get me started on the blatant racism. I've heard everything from, watch out for black people on the subway. They'll try to take your purse, to it should be illegal for those Muslims to cover their faces. You should be able to see someone's face. One of my best friends is black and she once told me, he's one of the good ones. They should all be like him. Minor, but the house always has to be spotless. You have a shirt on your bedroom floor? Pick up. You kids are all slobs. We have people coming over. No we don't, and even if we do, why would they be going in my bedroom? Her house is her house, and she'll let you know. Any object she has spent money on doesn't belong to you, it belongs to her. She also spends way too much money on home decor like oriental rugs, furniture, etc., but then complains about how she has no money. Obligatory not married to a Karen. However, my mother is a Karen and Lord is it not easy. I don't even know how many times I've had to correct her on the way she speaks to servers. Doesn't listen. The smallest inconvenience, she wants to talk to someone higher up. She overreacts to every inconvenience and is the type to try and bargain at a retail store. Apparently the concept of set price does not apply to her. Can't stand it. I'm glad I no longer live with my parents. I love my mother, I do, and she has great qualities, but she is the most Karen a Karen can be. I'm divorcing a Karen. Nothing was ever good enough, everything had to be the most expensive thing, and even then it wasn't good enough. It was exhausting and it sucked the passion I had for life out of me. Edit, slept on this and thought of some more telltale signs. She never said nice things about me, to me or to other people. My best friend came over for a barbecue with his wife and kids, and her mother just mocked me the whole time to my friend's wife. My friend's wife confronted them about it. Even on our wedding day, the part "you say nice things" sounded like a tentatively warm school report card. The nicest thing I remember her saying about me was, "I like how you make the salads. It's better than how I make it." The whole time that's the best I can think of. Best friend married a Karen. This woman is a whole different level of Karen. He makes a large 6-digit salary but has to work cycle shift away from home. She has the option to move from home so they can live as a family, but refuses because she has what she calls a career. She sells scents and works a clerk job at an HR office. They have 2 kids, she can't handle them. She makes him drive home from work every day so she can work out for 30 minutes in the evening. It's a 7 hours commute. He had to buy another vehicle because he couldn't take the company vehicle back and forth. So expensive and dangerous. There's too many things. Here's some: when she's working at home he has to leave the house with the kids and can't come back until she says it's okay. Insane spending habits on unnecessary stuff, Amazon, Sensi and other MLM products. Any negative things that happens in her life is his fault and he has to fix it immediately no matter the cost. She texts and calls him every 10 minutes at work to complain about him being away from home and how the kids drive her crazy. She made him buy a luxury camper $40K so she can visit him at work. Came one time. She puts the kids in daycare even though it costs them more than she financially makes. Wants more kids. Wants huge renovations done but refuses to watch the kids while he does them. He has to watch them while working. Nothing gets done quick and that gives her anxiety and stress. Makes him attend job fairs in hopes that he'll find a job making just as much money. It won't happen but he does it anyway to please the demands. It frustrates me because my time with him has literally become therapy sessions where he vents for hours. It's brutal and I hate that he tolerates it. When I first met my wife, she was beautiful as every single way. I remember looking at her when we walked around a lake, and as she spoke to the ducks I thought, I'm going to marry this beautiful Snow White. She loved all animals and they loved her right back. Her soul was pure. She looked like a queen in everything she wore, be it jeans or a sundress. She was never a princess type woman. She was always destined to be my queen. She demanded love and respect because that was what she deserved. I'm not sure when she changed, but slowly and surely, she did. She humiliates me, she belittles me and she saddens me. I'll never be right or even acknowledged to have a valid point or opinion. She wastes money that I work hard to earn. She has strategically spaced out our pregnancies to maximize the time she doesn't have to return to paid work. She has admitted this. Why don't I leave her? Better the devil you know, Syl is a Karen, and her name is very close to Karen. One of her most recent masterpieces. Her daughter, my niece, had a big choir performance one night. My family, her family, and my Phil and Mill were going to meet for dinner, and then go to the show. My neighbor owns a very nice Italian restaurant in town, and he arranged for us to have a big table ready when we got there. We, my family of 4, are halfway to the restaurant when my wife decides to check in with her sister with a text message. Syl, Karen, immediately calls back and casually says she's running late, she is always late, and that it would be best if we drove to their house to pick them up. To this day I don't understand how that will help us when she's already late and we had a rather tight window to have dinner, but Karen throws a shit fit when my wife pushes back, so we turn around, pick them up and drive to the restaurant. We sit down, and she scans the menu, asks the waitress questions, tells her a couple times she's not ready to order and needs a few minutes. Meanwhile we are all openly reminding her that we are on a tight window. Doesn't matter. Karen will not be rushed. It should be noted that my neighbor's restaurant has a single-page menu that doesn't change, and Karen has been to this restaurant many times. By the time she decides what she wants to order, we realize we now will not have time to eat. She gives all sorts of shit to the waitress, demanding toga boxes for our meals that are just now being served. My neighbor then came to our table to figure out what was going on, and she immediately stood up to try to explain what was going on, and threw the waitress under the bus. As we were leaving, I pull my neighbor and the waitress aside to tell them what really happened, profusely apologize, tell them it absolutely was not their fault at all.
Karen.